one way for everybody so that, you know, you don't have to be quarantined. Like every time we get through a week, I'm like, oh, we made another week.
Is he still doing all the martial
Oh yeah. We have a rule that you're not allowed to quit until you have your black belt and you finish middle school. So he got his black belt, but he has to be out of 8th grade, and then we'll talk about it. But by then, he'll be almost to his 2nd degree black belt. So
And then he'll start.
And then he'll want a day because he'll want to finish that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And by then, they're already talking about, you know, Jake is a SWAT instructor. So they're kind of grooming Nick to follow Jake. And so he's pretty excited about that. Because then he gets to be the leader and he gets to teach the little kids. And so he wants to do that now, but it's just a little too young. He'll probably get into the program where he gets like some of the training like next year.
He's still like hanging out with all the boys across the cowboys and stuff.
Yes. But we don't get to see the Bengals as much. Well, especially because of COVID, you know. So, but
Has he seen Tyler lately?
I don't know that he has seen him. I think they connect on FaceTime a little bit. I've never done it.
And at least I know they're very stressed. Yeah.
He's okay.
Yeah, her and I know there girls. But not anything.
I don't think Dr. Hogan well, I said you probably wouldn't mind.
I would never mind. I'd be there 3 times a day.
One at Rosal, and then as the hospital. Oh, so he's okay. I just he just doesn't
Oh, man,
He's okay. I'm okay. Then this guy. We're doing a little bit.
Were either of you planning to say during the picture? Yeah, if I pretend like it's not happening, it's not.
Right. But most of them are
Yes.
him, and so we won't get together for things.
Okay, I would like to call this meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we are going to have some special recognitions, and I will throw it over to Ms. Jen Jules.
Thank you, Ms. Lang. Tonight, we would like to recognize this year's Emerson Excellence in Teaching Award winners. This award honors teachers for their passion for education, their impact on student learning, and their knowledge and creativity in the classroom. The recipients are chosen for their outstanding contributions to the teaching profession and to the students they teach. First up is Tanya Longmore. Tanya has worked in the district for 10 years and currently teaches at Cosley Elementary. She volunteered to take on a virtual 4th grade class this year and has embraced the challenge of virtual learning with a positive attitude and belief in her students and families. As Cosley's information technology specialist, Tanya initiated professional development at the start of the school year to prepare staff in the event the district had to switch to full-time virtual learning. Principal Tim Shawley says, and I quote, "Tanya is an amazing teacher and an amazing leader in our building, and she is so deserving of this recognition." Tanya Longmore. Next, we'd like to recognize Lori Richardson. Lori has been with the district for 26 years and part of the Bryan Middle School community for 22. She currently teaches 8th grade U.S. history. Throughout her time at Bryan, Lori has served as a professional development trainer for instructional strategies and has led positive behavior interventions and supports, or PBIS work. She currently serves as the leader of Brian's character crew and has helped Brian move toward cultural proficiency and educational equity. Principal Suzanne Leek has this to say about Lori. Through her teaching, she provides students with not only the content of U.S. history, but also the courage to speak up against the majority, the confidence to be part of a much-needed movement, and the skills needed to articulate and defend their stance. Mrs. Richardson is very deserving of this recognition as she models what it means to be a true difference maker. Congratulations to Lori Richardson. Next, we would like to recognize Ada Pipkins from Francis Howell High School. Ada won first place in the Missouri Interscholastic Press Association Photo of the Month contest. Take a look at the winning photo up here on the screen. In this photo, Ada captured freshman Will Cottle taking a breath during the 400 freestyle relay on October 5th. The judges commented that, and I quote, "Swimming can be a very challenging sport to photograph, but the photographer did an excellent job of capturing the swimmer at the right moment with the right exposure. The spray of water gives the picture momentum, and the swimmer's facial expression gives it emotion." Inspired by her aunt, Ada has been taking photos for 3 years. Her favorite sport to photograph is swimming, and she has won several previous awards for her sports action photos. When she's not behind the camera, Ada is herself a student athlete, participating on the girls' golf team, the swim team, and the track team at Howell. She is involved with Missouri Youth Government and Yearbook. She plans to attend college not to become a photographer, but to become a forensic toxicologist. Congratulations to Ada, and I believe Dr. Wedlock wants to say a few words as well.
Okay, so just to round out the picture of the young lady behind the picture, she's a person that takes on challenges in the classroom. She's not afraid to take AP, government, statistics, anatomy. If you've taken high school anatomy, you know it's a very difficult class. She also goes, it was hard for me to describe this, but takes the road not taken in her photos. Like if you've been to a swim meet, you know how incredibly challenging it is to get that type of photo. But she also does basketball, wrestling, and other things that are very tight competition and very dark places where you have to take pictures from very far away. And all of these things are extremely challenging. And also, I think more or as important in what we do at Francis Howell, she also is very caring about her community. She's involved in our community service project that leads or gives our good things in our school community, makes them aware to the people outside. And so that's included videos about national merit, our new teachers, and then that project also has done stories about veterans and our free food at school project. So very wonderful that she's involved in those types of projects. Very proud to have her and glad she's in the Viking family.
And Ada, if you need an internship, contact me. We could use your help. Finally, I want to introduce Assistant Principal Erin Thurston from Barnwell Middle School, and she's going to introduce our student board representative. Erin?
First, I'd like to say that Dave Ackoff is sorry he couldn't be here, but I'm excited that I get to introduce Ananya. Ananya Vitra is an 8th grader at Barnwell Middle School, where she is a member of the National Junior Honor Society, Journalism, Art Club, and won Outstanding Student Award from 2 different teachers. She demonstrates respect in all that she does and goes above and beyond and gives 100% in all of her coursework. In addition to her academic success, Ananya shows kindness to others daily and is always considerate of other people's feelings. She always volunteers to work with other students, even when they do not have someone to partner with. Ananya is a worldly individual and is always willing to teach others about her culture and travels. During one Spectre class, she even wrote all of the students' names in her native language as a keepsake for them to take home. Ananya is the type of student who every teacher wishes they had the pleasure of having in their class. Her presence makes each class better. Ananya is a model citizen in our school community, and we are grateful to have her representing Barnwell today and always. Ananya Vitra.
Welcome, Ms. Ananya. Mr. Hain here will get y'all set up. You are free to comment, ask questions, Okay, welcome. Okay, we are moving on to patron comments. During patron comments, patrons and staff are invited to address the Board of Education. Please come to the podium so everyone can hear and adhere to the 3-minute time limit. The board is interested in hearing the public's concerns and opinions. We do not respond to comments or questions during the meeting. Questions and concerns will be addressed by Dr. Hoban and other appropriate staff members. Please remember, comments about individual students or staff are not allowed due to confidentiality. These concerns need to be brought to administration's attention and may be brought to the board in closed session. We have no in-person comments, but we do have one online comment that Ms. Jen Jolt will read.
I think we do one in person, right?
No,
Yep,
that's
those
not.
are Ms.
Thank you.
So online patron comment from Dana Schultz, who is a current nurse in the field. She says, please follow the common sense directive from Governor Parson. Please keep our kids in school. Please, our kids deserve an education.
Thank you. FHSD comments? No? Okay. FISPA? Which they have an online comment. We are Ms. Jen Jolt again.
Again. I was asked to read the following statement on behalf of FISPA. Good evening, Board of Education members, Dr. Hoban, and Cabinet. We hope this message finds you well and in good health. FISPA was not able to share this statement in person due to quarantine, as well as to reduce our chance for exposure due to family members being at high risk. We thank you for the work you do for our students and the community. Our members are highly concerned with Governor Parson's, DESE's, and the Department of Health and Senior Services changes in the state K-12 quarantine guidance. We believe it is misguided and dangerous. The health and safety of our students is a priority for all support staff. The guidelines issued by Governor Parson recklessly put our students and staff at risk of exposure to COVID-19. Infections are setting new record highs. Now is not the time to decrease our efforts of protection. It also runs contrary to the guidance of the CDC. FHSD has high standards for our curriculum, research-based, data-proven. We should have high standards for our health and safety of our students and staff as well. We implore you to continue to implement guidelines already in place, which includes quarantining all close contacts, masked or not. Yours respectively, FISPA Leadership Team.
Okay, board. I need a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Board, I need a motion to approve the October 15th, 2020 open session meeting minutes as presented.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Board, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda items as presented for November 19th, 2020.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Board, I need a motion to approve the vending revenue budget for fiscal year 21 as presented.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Supple, anything? No? Okay, any discussion, board?
I would like to say a couple things on this subject. First of all, I want to say thank you to Mr. Supple publicly for listening to my concerns, our concerns, mainly mine, about that, and it really is truly appreciated the fact that you did. I think that what we have done with this is going back and just limiting the amount, but having an option for us to go ahead and give the additional revenue to the clubs if they need it, to the seniors class was a wonderful compromise. I want to thank my fellow board members for listening to me and listening to my concerns, and I really appreciate the fact that we could collaboratively work on this problem together. So thank you all very much.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, board, I need a motion to approve the October 2020 financial statements as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Sutton?
Just a couple of things that I would point out. We did share with the board previously that this was going to be the first year that we would need to issue tax anticipation notes. And so just an update is that we have, we received authorization at a prior meeting to borrow up to $15 million. And we have borrowed $5.5 million at this point. We anticipate that there'll be another draw necessary prior to the November 10th payroll, so the November 25th payroll. So we're just managing that very closely, and I'll keep you apprised through the financial statements and so forth, but try very hard to borrow as little as possible for as short a time as possible.
Thank you, Mr. Supple. Any discussion, board? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, board, I need a motion to approve the purchases over $7,500 as presented.
So moved.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Board, I need a motion to approve the 2020-21 revised budget as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Supple?
Thank you, Mrs. Lane. A couple things that I would point out. This is a normal process that the district goes through each year, is to take a look as we are at the very outset of our budgeting for next fiscal year to update the current year's budget based on known factors at the time. Perfect, thank you. I want to go through just a couple of slides to give you an update as to where we are, because this is a little bit of an unusual year in regards to this budget, just as it has been for most everything else that we've had to deal with this year. So one thing that I would point out, that I want to start with maybe the bright spot. And the bright spot is that our Proposition C revenue is coming in much stronger than we anticipated. I've shared in the financial memos previously that Proposition C, which is the sales tax revenue, is heavily weighted towards food sales. And as a result, with many people staying home, people were buying more food instead of eating out. And so that's kept that revenue stream pretty consistent with our prior year's collection, which is a better result than what we had anticipated at the time that we adopted the budget. So we were able to adjust the budget upwards a little bit for Proposition C revenue, and then just some minor tweaks, as we always do, for the budget to better reflect the after Board of Equalization values, which are not available until the beginning of September. So those two things have been reflected in the budget. The state side is maybe not as good a set of news. We have decreased our estimated revenue from the basic state formula. One of the major factors there is the Classroom Trust Fund. The Classroom Trust Fund derives its revenue primarily from gaming activities in the state. And there was a period of time when that activity was essentially prohibited because the casinos were closed, which had an impact on that revenue stream. I read a little blurb in the Post-Dispatch the other day that as of that writing, that revenues had started to recover a little bit, which is a good sign. But then we also know that we're facing a very challenging period in terms of the health of the community, and it's unclear at this time, and I'm not making any prediction, I'm just saying it's unclear as to how long venues like casinos will remain to be open, so that could have an impact on that going forward. So we have made some reductions in the overall state revenue. Now, we did maintain that the basic formula, which is one component of basic state aid, would continue to be funded pretty much at what the General Assembly had appropriated. General revenue trends in the state are fairly positive, and if that is to continue through the rest of the year, the increase that we've seen in the proration factor, or I guess I would reverse that, the decrease in the proration, so the reduction that they're taking it's been improving month by month. So I'm still hopeful that we'll be able to reach that target. On the federal side, we did include several revenue streams that are related to CARES Act funding. So the governor recently announced a secondary distribution of state CARES Act revenue. That was, our allocation was about $1.2 million. We applied for a grant to offset supply costs, and the grant required that 75% be paid by the county in which the school district was located and 25% from CARES Act revenue. And so I do want to thank St. Charles County for contributing. Their contribution here is $200,000. I've just been in contact with their director of finance, provided him the documentation necessary for them to forward those funds to us. So the state is giving us $67,000 and the county $200,000. It comes from the county's allocation of CARES revenue, which they're sharing with the school districts. And then we have, there are several grant opportunities that exist. This happens to be for offset the costs of transportation for meal delivery. Our transportation department has been involved in that process. And so it's not a lot of money, but we're I mention it specifically because we are trying to take advantage of every opportunity to capitalize on any revenue that's out there for us. We made some other changes within the budget, and overall, primarily because of the CARES Act revenue, our revenue is up by about $1.5 million. On the expenditure side, our salaries and benefits, the trends that I'm seeing in the budget would indicate that we're pretty much right on track, so I haven't made any adjustments there. On purchase services, there were a couple of things that have driven up some additional costs in that area. You know, we have purchased some additional mobile hotspots for our students and some other items necessary to support the virtual learning process. On the opposite side of that equation, if you will, our travel and mileage is down significantly because there just aren't a lot of out-of-state or out-of-area conferences. So people are staying here and doing those conferences virtually. Supply side, we made an estimate at the time that the budget was being put together prior to the June approval that perhaps overstated how much the academic department would be able to reduce from their budget. So we restored that because they do have some additional expenditures related to providing services in this challenging environment, like the additional online course offerings that we're making available to students this year. And then in the federal programs, we just trued those up to match the final expenditure reports and the budget for this year. So in total, our expenditures are up a little over $800,000. In the other funds, debt service was just very minor modifications. One of the things is when we refunded bonds in December of last year, that set of bonds did have a subsidy part of the Build America Bonds program that was offered to entities like school districts back in 2009 during the last recession. But we were able to take advantage of favorable interest rates, but we did lose that subsidy. So that had been built into the budget previously. We just backed that out. The good news is we're still overall saving money. It's just the timing of it is a little bit different. And then our capital projects funds is relatively unchanged. We did recognize when we sold the bonds, there was a premium of $7 million. So the face value of the bonds was $100 million, but we actually generated $107 million in cash. So that is included as is the $100 million in principal amount of Proposition S bonds. I want to talk just a little bit about fund balances. So in the preliminary budget, you can see the middle column there. We are, and to the right of that, you can see that we're doing a little bit better than what we had on paper for the budget in June. These information have been shared with the board previously. The efforts that we're taking this year to try to reduce our expenditures. We told you it would be a multi-year proposition to get back to a more even keel. We'll be taking a hard look at staffing on a go-forward basis for next year. And so then I just want to talk about the changes in fund balance. And I know board members have this in front of them, and I apologize to the audience that it's a little bit small. This would show you that if the budget operated exactly like it's shown on paper, we would end up with a 9% fund balance at the end of this year. But we did share with the board that there would be reductions that we would be able to include. So I wanted to show you just what that would look like. And so if we keep our revenues the same as what is budgeted, and that would be a very favorable outcome for us to receive everything that we had budgeted. And if we factored in the reductions that we anticipate we would be able to make this year, we would reduce our deficit by several $1 million, and so our fund balance would end up closer to 11.5%, which would be about a 3.5% increase in the budget, or 2.5% increase in the budget. But as we look forward to fiscal year 22 and beyond that, the picture gets rather grim fairly quickly. So what I wanted to do is show you, without making any specific commitments to what might happen, but to show how things can be affected. If we factor in the reductions in fiscal years 22 and 23, primarily, and you can see those are reflected here, primarily, but not entirely, in salary and benefits, it does have a positive impact where we would be able to stabilize our fund balance somewhere around 7.5%. Now remember that each fiscal year gives you the opportunity to have results a little bit better than what appears on paper here, so there's an opportunity for that to get a little bit better as we go forward. But it will take some concerted effort over a couple of years to make some hard decisions in order to better align our expenditures with our available revenue. In this particular scenario, I did, in addition to making some changes in our expenditure side, I did get a little bit more, just slightly more aggressive on the revenue side as well, anticipating that some of the revenue sources might come back a little quicker or a little stronger than what I had initially included in some projections. So this particular sheet shows improvements on both revenue and expenditures in the upcoming fiscal years, and that would give you the results there. Again, we would end up somewhere maintaining a fairly stable fund balance around 7.5% on a go-forward basis. And so I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board might have.
Thank you, Mr. Supple. Any questions, board? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, board, I need a motion to approve entering into negotiations with SM Wilson to provide construction management at-risk services for construction at the Francis Hall North High School complex, effective November 20th, 2020, based on an estimated project value of $91,350,000. Should negotiations not prove favorable to the district, the Board of Education approves the process design team to enter into negotiations with the next highest ranking bidder, PERIC. Upon conclusion of successful negotiations, the Board of Education further approves the district entering into an agreement with the successful bidder for pre-construction services as outlined in their proposal.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Right, it was a mouthful. Mr. Supple?
Thank you, Mrs. Lane. We're very excited to bring this recommendation this evening. The construction manager at risk process is a approach to constructions that's been used quite extensively in the private sector, but only recently available to entities like school districts. And so we are only among a handful of school districts who have used this process, but not only for the other school districts that we've spoken with who have used the process previously, but also with other people in the construction trade. They all believe that the nature of the Francis Howell North project lends itself perfectly to construction manager at risk. The great advantage of this process is that we involve the entity that's going to be doing the construction of that project in the design even before the drawings are finalized. And so we get an opportunity to bring those efficiencies and improvements to the design as they're being created and not have them come after the fact, after budgets have been approved. And then it becomes a discussion about change orders to do various things. So we're really excited about the process and think that the firm that we recommend is going to bring a tremendous amount of value. I will tell you that it was exciting to see who submitted proposals to work with the school district, and this was a two-pronged approach. We began first with a request for qualifications, and that was for us to just determine based on, they could not submit any financial data with that first set of proposals. It was only the qualifications of the company. We had 6 firms who submitted proposals or requests for qualification submissions, and going through the evaluation process, we determined that 4 of them would move forward to the request for proposals. In the request for proposal process, they had an opportunity to provide us with estimates of their costs for pre-construction services, the general conditions, and then also some of the construction fees for the actual fees that they would charge for doing the work. We determined that all 4 of the companies were well qualified and moved forward with interviews with the 4 firms. So the entire design team had an opportunity to sit down. We spent the better part of a couple of days talking with the 4 firms. At the end, we determined that SM Wilson, we believe, will provide the greatest value to the school district. We have we know that they have a history of working with public school districts, which we think is a distinct advantage and will be able to really help us through the design process, again, to achieve those efficiencies or improvements to the overall design as we move forward with the process. So we tried to provide a lot of information in the briefing paper, but there may be some questions that the board has, and rather than my continuing to speak to you, I'd rather answer any questions that board members might have.
Any questions, board?
Can you just speak to how the selection committee processes the contractors that come to them, that are submitted to them?
Sure. We took a look at a number of different factors as we were considering who was best qualified to provide services to the district. And those vary by the point in time at which, whether it was the RFP or the RFQ. So in the RFQ, we looked at their overall K-12 building experience. We think that a K-12 setting is unique, and we wanted to know what experience they had there. We evaluated the team that was proposed by each of the companies. We wanted to know how familiar they were with the district. We wanted to understand what type of relationships and familiarity they have with local subcontractors. We needed to understand their safety record, their financial strength, and whether they had completed other projects that are similar in scope. So we might have a company that has a great deal of experience, but they've never done anything like a total high school build. So we wanted to take a look. Those were the things that we focused on primarily through the RFQ process, which led up to inviting 4 of the firms to submit for the RFP. And in the RFP, we did take a look at the fee structure, but that was only about 27% of the total value that was given in terms of points to our evaluation of the firms. We wanted to know, here we focused on some quantitative but also qualitative aspects. So what type of pre-construction services can they offer? How frequently are they going to update their estimates, which can be helpful to us? How quickly are they going to arrive at their guaranteed maximum price? Would they be able to self-perform some of the work? And if so, what are the advantages to us doing that? What type of safety and quality controls do they have embedded in their program? So we then, through the interview process, which followed the review of the proposals, in the interview process, we really wanted to understand who was going to provide the best fit. The good news is that the 4 companies that we had an opportunity to interview, each of them is excellent and well respected in the field. And so it would not have been possible for us to make a bad decision because all of the firms were really excellent. So then it really became a question of who do we feel most comfortable with, who do we think we're going to work best with, and which firm is going to provide the greatest value to us through the process. I will tell you that one of the firms we interviewed was Brinkman, and they did the work on Francis Howell High School. I was so impressed with their work during that project, and I thought they did a tremendous job for us. But I really had to separate myself from that and try to be objective and to look at the information that was presented to us. And as we had an opportunity to review the evaluations that had been done previously, and then to have conversation following all of the interviews, as a team, we decided that SM Wilson, particularly because of their greater range of K-12 building experience, was going to be the best partner for us in the Francis Howell North project.
So a little bit on the back end of that. So if you took away the objective process and you were just going to pick the person that you want to award it to, it would have been somebody else than what you're recommending, because this process led us in a objectively different direction.
Well, I want to make sure I answer that question correctly.
Complete hypothetical, but basically what I'm getting at is you're suggesting that this is an objective way of choosing the CMR process, and assigning those points was done collaboratively through the
Yes.
committees.
Yes.
Okay. And then if we do come to a successful negotiation, is that brought back before the board to finalize that agreement?
Yeah, so we will, the process will be this. We'll begin our negotiations, and we'll arrive at agreement on pre-construction services, and we'll talk about the full scope of the project. Then the pre-construction work begins, and they will work with our architects to begin to design the Francis Howell North project. At a certain point within that design phase, they will be able to arrive at a guaranteed maximum price. And at that point, the board will have another opportunity to review the guaranteed maximum price, and that will include a listing of all of the subcontractors that they would intend to work with during the course of the project. So in a typical hard bid situation, after all the documents are done and they're sent out, all the firms have an opportunity to bid, and we know all the same information, it will be similar to what happens at the point in a hard bid when you open your hard bids and take a look at those numbers. So we will negotiate the pre-construction services, and then they will bring back their guaranteed maximum price, and then we will bring that forward to the board for approval.
Mine is more of just a statement. So not being part of this committee or selection process, but being a guy who works in the building trades, I have personally been on job sites of all these contractors. I'm pretty excited, and I don't think we can really go wrong with any of them. I think they all have a great reputation. They're all local and they're big companies.
Anyone else? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Right forward, I need a motion to rename the building located at 1400 Gettysburg Landing to Parents as Teachers Family Education Center as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Dr. Hogan?
I don't have anything major to add. You can see in the memo that this was a committee, went through the typical process to collect some input, look at various options, and come forward to you with this recommendation.
Perfect, thank you. Any discussion, board? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Board, I need a motion to approve the 2020-2023 transportation closure document as presented.
So moved. Second.
Mrs. Simpkins?
Thank you. Administration is very pleased to present our first ever agreement with our transportation employees. It was really a great process from start to finish. We really enjoyed working together with the Teamsters to address all of the questions and concerns from both sides. We have really started to build a very collaborative and supportive relationship, and we really would like to thank Shelley Huseman, Charles Hahn, Morgan Montez, Dan McLaughlin, Dan Thacker, and all of our administrative team for participating in the process. And we really do look forward to this continued relationship with the Teamsters and our transportation employees. So we have the agreement here. After the board votes, we'll take a break, and if approved, we'll have you and the Teamsters sign the agreement. Yes, it was ratified by the Teamsters, yes.
Okay. Any discussions? No? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We will take a short break here for some signatures.
One member from the...
Thank you so much.
Shelley, are you signing as the manager?
Dan.
Dan will sign? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yours, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay, we're now going to be moving on to best practice. We will have our FHSD virtual teachers and teachers here. Miss Dr. Altman.
Thank you. Good evening. It's no secret that this 2021 school year has brought some unique challenges for our district. We've had to problem solve situations we have never dealt with before. And through all of that, as I've watched our board meetings, there's been one sentiment that really has been expressed by the board, our executive cabinet, and families, and that is the praise of our teachers. I'm honored to be here this evening to share the best practice session, which is our teachers and their commitment to the learning of the students of Francis Howell. When we came off the closure, we knew that there were two essential pieces that we really need to work with our students, one of which was that sense of belonging and sense of community. We wanted to ensure both our virtual learners and our face-to-face learners had that sense of belonging as they were coming off that closure for their social and emotional well-being. We also knew that we needed to engage our students in the curriculum and meet those learning standards. Our teachers have risen to both of those challenges by their dedication and their commitment and their innovation. I'm excited to show you a video that highlights this great work in action.
The literacy coaches at Fairmount at the beginning of the year saw a need from teachers that were wanting to broaden their working space and kind of redefine learning and how that looked in the classroom and outside of the classroom.
We love coming to the outdoor classroom. We've done a lot of writing assignments out here. We did one last week where we talked about writing with our senses and we got to see, hear, smell, feel different things.
I like to come out to the outdoor classroom because the sunlight makes me calm calm, and I like the smell of the natural trees, and I like to hear the birds and the planes and the cars and the bugs and everything.
I am engaging my virtual students by getting them up and moving, using thumbs up, thumbs down, having them use their bodies to spell, make letters and spell sight words. And I have realized that a dry erase board is a virtual teacher's best friend because they can write anything on it and hold it up to the screen. So that's how I've been engaging my virtual students. If what you say is a question, I'm going to move my egg one spot. If we can get the egg all the way to the end, I'll crack it on my head.
Pumpkins grow up.
When do pumpkins grow up? Did he ask a question? Yes or no? Was that a question? When do pumpkins grow up? That was a question.
When do orange pumpkins grow?
When do orange pumpkins grow? Is that a question or not a question? When do orange pumpkins grow? That was a question. I'm not ready. Are you ready? Okay. Me too.
When I first used it, the amount of pride I had that the kids all logged on, I could see them all graph a line correctly. It just made my heart so happy that they actually were there working, and I actually would share the screen and share other students' whiteboards of what they were doing and how they were succeeding and things I was looking for.
Go ahead and tell me what the slope is, and go ahead and try to attempt to graph that line. Bison, nice job on the graph. Go ahead and put the slope in there for me and y-intercept.
I also try to engage students by doing a morning check-in before they log in. On these check-ins, I often ask them, how are you doing today? Usually my first hour kids are always just exhausted and tired, and so that lets me know I need to bring the extra pep to the classroom. And then I can also see if I have a group overall that's pretty angry. I know I need to put a stop to the learning and we need to talk about what's going on. So by having an emotional check-in every couple days, it allows me to get a sense of where my kids are emotionally every time.
How are you guys doing today? Go ahead and grab an emoji. Let me know how you're feeling. Overall, looks like we're all in a pretty good mood. Couple people in the angry zone, couple people in the blue zone, a lot of people in the green, yellow.
So this year, we've tried different things to get the kids back to normal and building community in the classroom. And one is we make a class book, so everybody has a page with their picture and something that they like. So we do this every day for the first couple weeks. A few weeks in, we did Pete the Cat and Rockin' in My School Shoes. So this one is Guess Who. They have to look at the shoes and then open it and look to see who their friend is. And another one was incorporating their pictures and what they like to eat, so the environmental print. The kids have transitioned back to school wonderfully, made new friends, and had seen friends from last year, so we're off to a great start.
One of the ways that I build community in my classroom is by reminding myself and my students that we're all unique people, and understanding more about ourselves and about each other can definitely help us feel more connected. Some of the ways that we do this in my classroom are that we hold community meetings where we can go around the circle, we can talk about our responses to different topics, we can talk about how we're feeling and about how our goals are going while we're at school.
The teachers are really nice, and they like help you, like if you don't know what to do, they help you.
I like being part of the Barnwell community because everybody just helps each other. Yeah, they're usually really nice to each other.
I have found that kids started to open up a little bit more when I put them into individual breakout rooms, and then when I had them working, I popped from breakout room to breakout room to spend some time one-on-one with them, and that was interesting because then they would, turn on the camera and spend some time talking to me, and then, the next day then in class I could be like, I missed that smile today, and then the cameras come on.
Will you tell the audience what you like, some of the things you like about virtual learning?
What I like about virtual learning is my classmates, my teacher. They sung happy birthday to me, and that was great. I feel comfortable. Going in breakout rooms with my teacher, that's very comfortable.
My classmates were very encouraging, and it almost feels like a second family.
Like I have a kid who DJs the class every day, and he plays a song for us when we're opening, and I'm taking attendance and things like that, and so that's fun for us. We have inside jokes just like you would in a classroom. We have nicknames for one another. We let people do talents, and so like a kid played the guitar, and we had a couple kids sing and different things like that. Just letting them showcase and shine their talents.
So it's important to note that's just a small sampling of our teachers. You can walk into any classroom, any building, and see these amazing efforts in action. And we are very lucky tonight to have two of those educators joining us to share some of their best practices. So I'd like to introduce Mrs. Melissa Tackett. She is a 5th grade teacher at Warren Elementary. She is teaching virtually this school year.
I also want to give a special shout out. So Mrs. Tackett's kids are currently on a Zoom party watching this meeting right now. So they've been patiently waiting. So here's your time.
Thank you. Okay. Hi, good evening. My name is Melissa Tackett, and I have the honor and the immense privilege of being a virtual 5th grade teacher to the brightest, funniest, and in my not so humble opinion, the best students in the Francis Hall School District. I have been a 5th grade teacher at Warren Elementary for the past 8 years, and prior to that, I was a 6th grade science teacher in the Fort Zumwalt School District for 5. I would like to share with you how rewarding it has been being a virtual teacher this year. It's not all Bitmoji classrooms and Zoom calls. It certainly has its challenges, and at times I do feel like I am a first-year teacher all over again. However, as we all know, virtual learning is not new, nor is it going anywhere. There has always been a place for students who need something other than the traditional classroom. I'm here to tell you that my 27 scholars are proof that virtual learning is succeeding here in FHSD. At the beginning of the school year, I spent a lot of time getting to know my students and building one-on-one relationships with them. I held a class community meeting every morning. As students enter into our Zoom, they answer a funny daily question while listening to some school-appropriate jams provided by our weekly VIP student and, of course, myself. It's not shocking to hear Queen or the Paw Patrol theme song blaring through the homes of my leaders the first 15 minutes of their school day. One-on-one interaction is very important in the virtual environment. I conference with 5 to 6 students every morning after our class meeting. Starting our day off with this one-on-one time is so beneficial, as it gives me the time to check in with students on their work, time for me to make sure they ate breakfast, or even just time to play an icebreaker game to get ourselves up and moving. This one-on-one time also sets a great example for the rest of our day. During these conferences, students and I set goals together and make a game plan of how we're going to accomplish our goals for that day. One student of mine in particular expressed that she needed some extra challenges and enrichment, so I have challenged her to learn and then teach me the game of chess. She assigns me homework, and we meet for a lesson once a week, and Eden, yes, I know it's tomorrow. And let's just say I'm not the best chess student, but I'm definitely working on it. I may have created a monster here because she's a way better teacher than I am at chess. Social time is also huge for my virtual learners. It's important for me as their teacher to step outside of our classroom in the traditional sense to build social time. Team Tackett takes a screen break daily where we go on walks, spend some time outside together, or play with Legos. Connecting is essential, and I have found that connecting in new and creative ways has been necessary this school year. My students are home, after all, so why not go outside on our trampoline to learn about physics? Why not have our class pets be part of show and tell? Let me tell you, I even joined my students for a game of Among Us as a classroom reward to connect with them, where I was told I am so sus. Thanks to our district's purchase of Zoom, I use polls frequently, as well as other tools that Zoom has to offer. I am also constantly engaging my students through technology tools such as cooperative Google Slides, Pear Deck, Edpuzzle, and more. I am also using our virtual environment to our benefit by providing my students opportunities to connect and Zoom with scientists and geologists and their in-person peers frequently, as well as teaching my work-from-home CEOs, which is what I call my students, how to be effective digital citizens. We actually Skyped with an astronomer from the University of Chicago who worked for NASA today, who inspired my girls to pursue careers in STEM. I also am thankful for the time that we have been given as virtual teachers to connect and collaborate with other virtual teachers across our grade level and our district, as well as in our building. It takes a village to create all of the materials necessary in the virtual world, and I absolutely could not accomplish this job without the collaboration time from my virtual teaching peers. But as engaging as technology is by itself, nothing has changed about the way that I teach except for the addition of a few new tools. My students haven't missed a beat this school year. I am still rapping from the top of my desk, encouraging them to do at-home science experiments, or having a whatever-it-takes attitude to engage my kids. The only difference is now I have a green screen, a TikTok account, video editing software, and a Google Classroom and Flipgrid to showcase it all on. I want to stress to you that my students are just as important as their in-person peers. They want to feel heard, they want to feel seen, especially when they aren't physically in the classroom together. They are eager to learn and are learning skills about time management, digital citizenship, and ways to hold themselves and their peers accountable in this new era of learning. My parents tell me that they have watched their children grow into responsible and self-sufficient learners who have learned to advocate for themselves. My students report how much they love our virtual room transformations into Mexican restaurants and science laboratories, and of course, our Friday fun days where we play Among Us. These kids are truly the next generation of leaders, and I can't wait to see what they accomplish in this new era. Thank you for letting me share our successes with you tonight.
Thank you, Melissa. Next, we have Mrs. Eileen Green. She's an art teacher at Francis Howell High School. Eileen is teaching both virtual sections this year and in-person sections. And I do want to highlight her students' amazing artwork that is on the screen that they produced this year. So, Eileen?
I'm very nervous. That was an awesome presentation. Okay, so ditto to everyone. Sorry, I'm a bit nervous right now after that awesome speech. So I'm going to go to my awesome notes. All right, so actually, I was really nervous to teach virtual. Being the first time teacher in Francis Howell School District, I wanted to be like great. So in my process of being great, I researched like everything I could find out about technology because I didn't define myself as technology savvy. However, what I began to tell myself was to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, and I often stress that to my students, getting them used to the idea of just being open-minded to the new version of learning and having a different learning community more than we normally have. So that idea took precedent in my classroom, and I believe that it created a learning environment for our students to be open-minded and open to learning at a different learning spectrum. So I was able to just have that community in my Zoom classrooms, and I built that with each and every student. I talk with my hands. Sorry. So I believe that teaching virtually has given our students the community and the resources at our fingertips. Students are able to access internet, access different type of tools that they can use immediately for different type of learning activities within my classroom. So one thing that we do in our classroom that I absolutely love doing is we utilize virtual artist museum tours, and we're able to do that really across the world. Recently, we have done an artist tour at the Solomon Guggenheim Art Museum, and students were able to, well, that's in New York, so students were able to access that tour at real time. They utilize that activity with every unit and lesson so that students can get ideas from different people, different places, different past artists, and utilize that within their work of art and be inspired and collaborate with different students and their ideas within their projects. We also did the Contemporary Art Museum at the Guggenheim Art Museum, and students really enjoyed that because they were able to, it was almost like a travel abroad type situation, so that was really cool. Also utilizing different platforms like Zoom are really awesome because it gives the student a sense that we are all collaborating together. We utilize different breakout sessions, either group breakout sessions and breakout sessions one-on-one. Students talk about everything. They talk about things that they feel, talk about their work of art, talk about their different ideas. They even do temperature reading meters where they tell me that they're feeling good, bad, you know, not so good today, and we collaborate and talk about those ideas as well. Super nervous, guys. FYI. So I just wanted to express that this idea of virtual learning is really awesome because I think it gives us a new platform of learning that can reach many different learners. I was telling Jessie the other day, and I'm just talking candidly, that I think this just brings us to the point where we're not only just hitting people who are visual learners, we're hitting the kinesthetic learners and people who just are used to just being introverts. So I think that hits that type of learning as well. So I want to thank you guys for giving me this opportunity to just express how I am really ecstatic about the culture of virtual learning and how we're going to utilize that in the future. Thank you.
board members, I'd like to take a moment. You know that Dr. Buckman is not with us this evening. She's home under quarantine with her family. I'm sure having a Zoom party, watching the meeting as well. But I want to take a moment on behalf of her and the executive cabinet really to echo Dr. Altman's comments that she shared with you this evening about our staff. What all staff are doing this year is nothing short than amazing. Both Ms. Green and Ms. Tackett serve as incredible examples, and the other teachers you saw in the videos of the work that is happening day in, day out, evening, weekend, constantly this entire year. It's true of our instructional staff, our support staff, administrators, everybody that supporting the work within the district this year. It's really forced everyone to think how to innovate and to continue to connect to our students and to our families during everything that COVID is putting us through. Our in-person teachers, as you saw, are continuing to figure out ways to engage students in ways they never have before, to encourage collaboration with our students, all while keeping their classrooms safe for students each and every day. In addition to that, they're working incredibly hard to make sure that they're still reaching those students who are home under quarantine, which we know it increases on a regular basis. Our virtual teachers are working with students, also figuring out how to do this from a distance, working to the issues that technology brings, both in the district and outside, adapting the materials. Yet both of these groups are doing an amazing job, and many of them are doing both jobs at the same time. In addition to that, they're having to figure out ways to communicate with home in ways that we've never done and surpasses the expectations we've ever put on our teachers and on other staff. Yet at the same time, every time we pop into a classroom, whether it's in person or it's virtual, we see high levels of engagement. We see students who are smiling, loving the interaction with their teachers. And Ms. Green, I would say that tonight you and Ms. Tackett really demonstrated you're doing better than great in a year that has thrown a lot of curveballs. You're providing continuity and care for our students, and that was evident tonight in the comments that both of you shared. So thank you both. Also, we'd be remiss not to take a moment now to thank Dr. Altman. She stepped in this fall as the plans were underway to open the school year into a new role, along with a lot of change at the district level and in the district. And she's been amazing. She's been relentless in this work. She's really figured out what virtual instruction looks like, what it can look like. She's combining being a practitioner and looking at the research constantly and figuring out how to bring that to our teachers. She is constantly in teachers' classrooms, virtually, in person, really to understand what they're doing and trying to listen to them, to be able to give them feedback and figure out how we can, as a district, better support them and what they're doing to best meet the needs of our students. And so she's done an amazing job. She's a great addition to the leadership team, and we're all thrilled to have her on board as well. So thank you to all of you for the presentation tonight.
Thank you. Thank you all. Great presentation. We are going to follow that amazing presentation up with the MSBA board report.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Missouri School Boards Association's board report for the month of November. We thank you for the opportunity to share some news and information during a few minutes of your board meeting. We begin with a look at the important work of school nurses during the COVID-19 pandemic. There are approximately 1,600 school nurses in school districts throughout the state, working every day to keep our students, teachers, and staff healthy so they can continue to teach and learn. Their work is especially important during the COVID-19 pandemic. The director of the Missouri Association of School Nurses, Linda Newman, tells MSBA COVID-19 has taken quite a toll on the social, emotional aspects of a lot of children, and it's often the school nurse that's first to recognize those issues.
When the children keep asking to come to the school nurse, what could seem like a simple headache or stomach ache to a teacher or another staff member, as the school nurse is able to see them one-on-one and kind of, start conversation and build trust, you often find other things that are going on at home. Maybe mom or dad have lost their job and there's increased stress at home. Maybe grandmother who lived in the home with them has passed away from COVID. There are just so many different factors right now.
Newman says school nurses are likely to be the designated people to conduct rapid testing for COVID-19 in school districts that choose to participate in the program. Newman adds school nurses are working with local health departments on contact tracing when COVID-19 cases arise. She also says school nurses are encouraging everyone to get a flu shot this fall. She says school nurses are encouraging students and families to stay vigilant by continuing to wear masks, wash hands frequently, and maintain social distancing. As you may know, state law now requires all school board members to not only receive training in their first year of service, but also 1 hour of refresher training for every subsequent year of board service. The training must include concepts covered in the initial training, plus the prevention of sexual abuse of children. The MSBA Leadership Development Committee now has added completion of the MSBA refresher training as a requirement for achieving advanced, master, and distinguished board member certification, as well as the Governance Team Award. MSBA's immediate past president and chair of the Leadership Development Committee, Rhonda Gilstrap of Blue Springs, explains the new requirement for governance team recognition.
And in order for that to happen, all 7 board members of a particular board that is seeking out the Governance Award needs to have completed the additional hour of refresher training.
Visit the MSBA website for information on the various levels of board member certification, along with details on the Governance Team Award. Does your school district have an emergency operations plan? Mo EOP is a new web-based application developed by MSBA's Center for Education Safety and vetted by several school district safety personnel that will assist school staff responsible for emergency planning to create, store, and share school plans with school personnel and approved first responders. Bob Klossmeyer is an education safety coordinator with the Center for Education Safety.
Emergency operations planning can be a long and drawn-out process, ultimately concluding in an extensive and detailed document. Our team at CES recognizes this challenge and has launched an interactive web-based development tool designed to reduce the burden on schools, simplify EOP creation, and improve the overall safety climate for Missouri education.
The Center for Education Safety is conducting regional webinars about the new Mo EOP application and train subscribing schools on the use of this new tool designed to keep our schools as safe as possible. Filing for school board seats up for election in April opens on December 15th in most school districts in the state. MSBA will have updated, free resources available to school board candidates posted on the MSBA website, including a candidate's legal guide to running for the school board and information on the roles and responsibilities of school boards. Filing for school board seats closes on January 19th. That's it for this month's edition of the MSBA Board Report. Thanks for allowing us to have some time at your board meeting, and so long from Columbia.
Okay, now we are going to hear from Dr. Hoban on an inclusion and equity update.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to report that last night was the first meeting of our Equity Steering Committee for the district. This is a group that we've been talking about for a while, and I was able to pull together a group of both district staff as well as community members to get together and really begin this process of turning all of our words into actions. So we've had a lot of time this summer as a community, as a state, as a nation, talking about issues of equity. Very pleased when the board adopted the resolution. It really showed a lot of support for this work going forward. And so we were able to springboard into this committee work, and as we came together last night, we spent a lot of time first outlining why everyone wants to be part of this work, their passions for this work, their experience, what they would have to offer for this committee. And one of the questions we asked them was, what does success look like? What is an outcome from this work? How would you define that? And you know, it's interesting when you have a committee that says the best way we can define success for this committee is not to need this committee anymore. When we can get to the point that it is who we are and what we do, as opposed to having to create special teams to move in different directions. It'll take time, it's going to be a process, but it was exciting to hear the passion in the room and hear everyone's vision for where we can get as a district. Further, we spent a lot of time looking at some district level data, discipline data, attendance data, academic achievement, challenge courses, AP courses, ACT, our staffing levels. And you know, it's important to point out that every year as a school district, we really celebrate how we perform as a district. We stack up among the very best in the state year after year after year. But as we look deeper, as we look to how well we serve all of our students, and we start to break that down and look at our data across subgroups and across demographic groups, we start to see a picture underneath that says we aren't serving all of our students the way that we would like to celebrate. And it's time for us to own that. It's time for us to start to do something about that. And that starts with really understanding where that is. So last night, we began with a look at general overall district information. And as we move forward, we'll begin to focus. The good news is these days we have access to tons and tons of data that we can really dig very deeply into and look at many issues of equity across different groups. And so very powerful, very humbling. But also very exciting that we can finally own this and begin to move forward on it. So I personally, one of the things I asked of the committee last night was part of their job is to hold us accountable to do something. We have a lot of interest and momentum in doing good work, but until those good intentions turn into results and actions, we still have a lot of work to do. So I'm excited we got off the ground. And I will look forward to monthly updates to let you know where our work is headed.
Thank you, Dr. Hoven. Superintendent comments.
I guess that's for me. Tonight I want to talk about a couple of things that have really come to light recently around COVID. It seems like most months as part of these comments, COVID is a talking point. So as most of you know, last week there was an announcement that we were not anticipating. It came with the governor, the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services, as well as DESE, and they announced guidance about recommending differences in our quarantine procedures. As you would expect when something like that happens, it set off a lot of interest, a lot of speculation, a lot of concern, a lot of excitement on both sides of that issue. So I just want to talk a little bit about that tonight, where that is in the process. So it's important to point out that one thing about quarantine rules is those are the responsibility of our county health department. So while they made that announcement from a state level showing support for that, it really is up to individual county health departments to determine whether or not to change quarantine rules. We do have a good relationship with our county health department, so we have been able to meet with them several times since then, provide our input. But in the end, it will be their recommendations that come forward. One of the things we have communicated out to our community thus far is that until there is new guidance from our health department, we will continue to follow what's in place. So we have still been quarantining students, we still have been quarantining adults, still been welcoming them back when they complete those quarantines. Nothing has changed for us so far. We anticipate the health department continuing to work internally on their guidance. Perhaps we'll come out with their guidance for us maybe just before the Thanksgiving break. I would not anticipate any changes for us to take place until after the Thanksgiving break. So that is something we communicated out, but I know from a community perspective, from a board perspective, it's important to know where that is. When announcements like that come out of the blue, people really have an interest in knowing where that goes. That also comes with, if there were any changes, we understand that we just ask families to make decisions about second semester learning, and depending on the outcomes of this, it could cause people to change their minds on that, and we recognize that and would want to allow for that. So while this update does not provide a final answer tonight, I wanted to talk about where it is in the process. We also learned late this afternoon that the Department of Health and Senior Services for the state also came out with some clarifying guidance around that announcement. So that'll be made available very soon as well, and we will continue to monitor this, meet with our health department as we are able until we have final clarity around it. And then speaking of quarantines and where everything has gone, it's no secret to anyone that locally, statewide, nationally, worldwide, cases are on the rise. There's a lot of concern out there for what's happening with COVID in our communities, and therefore what role does school play in that. We, on a daily basis, and I have to really give a lot of thanks to Dr. Rumpus. He's new to us this year, and if he wasn't here taking care of our COVID issues, I'm not sure how we would get all this done. He has been absolutely fantastic about helping our buildings work through these issues, keeping us informed, and watching what happens. Much like other districts, we have seen a really big increase in quarantines in the last couple of weeks, an increase in our positive cases as well. And we are watching that, and I know that leads to questions. When do we get to a point, rumors, are we closing buildings? We hear that other districts are closing buildings and going virtual. Those things all exist as possibilities. We planned for those things at the beginning of the year when we planned for reopening. Part of that was this ability to switch between versions as needed. So it's a fair question. Is that a possibility on the horizon? And the way I would answer that tonight is we don't have an imminent decision to do anything to go virtual. However, we will continue watching the data, and if it leads to that, we are prepared to do that. Many of the districts around the region that have chosen to move to virtual, it ends up being because of inabilities to staff their buildings appropriately. I've heard in one district they had gotten over 40% of their staff was out on either positive with COVID or quarantine. You can't staff a building if 40% of your staff are out. There's only so many subs you can bring in. And so in that sense, obviously it does make sense to talk virtual. We have not seen those sustained concerns with our staffing. We have absolutely begun to experience concerns with subs in the last 10 days or so. We've really been tracking it on a daily basis. Lisa Simpkins and her department are putting a lot of energy on a daily basis into problem solving around that. We have had individual spikes in buildings or across the district that have been harder to manage, but overall we are able to still manage the staffing issues that are in front of us. So we will continue to monitor this. We will continue to keep an eye on it. We have shared both internally and with our community that we do track every single case when kids get quarantined. We do our best through contact tracing to identify who a student or staff member was exposed to, and then later if any of those exposed students or staff members themselves become positive. And one of the things we have shared is that as we track that, we are seeing very minimal numbers of cases where those quarantined individuals later become positive, and we believe that exposure happened at school. We definitely see people become positive after a sleepover at a friend's house, or because their sibling is positive, or because we know they ride in the same car together. But when really breaking it down and looking at just what happens in our school buildings, we do have some cases where it appears maybe spread happened in our buildings, but we don't have a lot. It has been really low numbers of that. So we continue to watch that. We're absolutely interested in seeing how our building data compares to our community data and all that. So I want everyone to hear we will continue to monitor that. As decisions need to be made, we will be on top of that on a daily basis. We put a lot of time and energy into making sure we're making the most responsible and safe decisions for our students and staff. That being said, we know that Thanksgiving is coming up, and everywhere you're seeing announcements from health departments, from county executives, from officials everywhere, asking people to please look at Thanksgiving differently this year. And we ask the same thing. We have said this, I have said this before, we have put a very safe situation in place for our school buildings. We ask that people take those same guidelines with them when they're outside of school. We ask that people wear masks if you're gathered with people who are not from your household. We ask that people limit who they interact with, and it's hard. It's hard for all of us. It's hard for myself included. We're not going to have the traditional Thanksgiving. We're not going to gather with extended family like we would on most years. So we just ask that people do their part. We ask that people stay home when you have symptoms. We ask that people follow those rules in the community. So I continue to make that plea. And then I'll close my comments tonight by echoing much of what you've already seen. Incredible to see what our teachers have done this year. The challenges, I think one thing the video does, it highlights all these great things, and it almost makes you forget how challenging this has all really been. Just doing normal things as a teacher this year has been really challenging. So to see these examples of just outstanding things that are happening, does not show you all the time, energy, and effort that goes into making that happen. Our in-person teachers have had to learn a whole new reality. Our virtual teachers have had to learn a whole new way of teaching. And then we have many teachers doing both at the same time. On top of that, kids are quarantined. And so you're doing one thing while knowing that you've got kids stuck at home as well that you're trying to keep caught up. Our other staff, not our teachers, but our other building staff have had to change procedures. Everyone has played a role in making this happen. Even though things have been on the rise in our community, we've been in school since August, and it's been successful. We've been incredibly happy to see how that's been going. Very proud of all of our staff, both our certified staff and our non-certified staff. It's been fantastic to see these results. I know it's hard. It's been exhausting for everyone, and we've still got some time ahead of us, and we're going to keep pushing hard to do what is best for our kids and for our families and for our staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Board of Education comments, requests? Nobody? Mr. Hain.
Yeah, I just want to echo some of the things that Dr. Hogan said about Thanksgiving. I'm really thankful to be part of a district and community that we can offer choices to our community to have in-person learning and virtual learning, both at a high quality and a high level. As he said, everybody get out and enjoy Thanksgiving, whether it be a Zoom meeting or in person, but that contact with your family and friends is important, so do that in a safe manner. And last but not least, be thankful that 2020 will be over soon.
Okay. Ms. Ananya over there, do you have anything you'd like to say? We thank you for coming.
I am very honored to be here today, and even though I didn't understand most of the stuff, I'm very thankful to be here today, and I want to say thank you to all the staff.
Thank you for coming. Thank you. It was a pleasure to have you. Okay, board, as we did not complete closed session business, I need a motion to return to closed session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Take a 5-minute break.